As of the date of this video, Married at First Sight is in its 16th season with more on the way. I thought it would be kind of fun to look back and highlight some of the most shocking and some of the funniest moments of the US franchise so far. And I'm happy to announce that this video is sponsored by HelloFresh, which means I have a yummy discount for you as well. Hi, I'm Tamara, and this is Tamara Lynette Tells. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't seen all of the seasons, there are definitely spoilers in this video. Let's get into this. In season 13, Rachel accidentally called Jose by another man's name, and when it came to his reaction, Jose chose chaos. Even though Rachel immediately apologized, Jose wasn't having it. He cut up so bad that the producer had to step in the middle of the night to try and referee the fight. Unfortunately, it didn't appear as though Jose could get his temper under control, so sometime around midnight, Rachel finally walked the producer to her car and the two of them had a little chat. So when Rachel went back to the apartment, Jose had a little something something waiting for her when she got back. Yeah, he bolted the door, turned out the lights, hopped in bed, and ignored her knocks on the door. Yes, he straight up locked her out. She didn't have her car keys on her, so after knocking on other cast members' doors with no luck, she finally was able to get in contact with a friend who was able to pick her up. The next day, Jose had zero apologies, stating that before he goes to bed, I secure my property. Sounding like a rookie rent-a-cop security guard. And to add to the ridiculousness of it all, the name Rachel accidentally called Jose was Johnny, one of their fellow castmates who they were hanging out with that night. Yes, Jose unhoused his wife over a simple slip of the tongue. Mike lied about anything and everything during his short marriage to Mika. He denied making comments to Mika about needing sex on their honeymoon. He bragged about having a new principal job, but later claimed he had to turn it down because the terms of the job had changed. And he allegedly had a job offer letter, but he claims that the dollar amount that was listed was his salary after taxes. I mean, the list of his lies goes on, but who could forget the time he invited Mika to a yoga class at the studio where he taught yoga several times a week? Mika showed up to the yoga studio, walked up to the front, and dropped Mike's name. Yeah, nobody knew who she was talking about. Turns out he never taught a yoga class there before. As a matter of fact, not just there, but in life in general. Instead, he was more of a part-time janitor who cleaned the studio in return for free or discounted classes. Even still, you would think that he would at least show up, pay for, and reserve spots for them in the class he invited her to. Nope. We never learned exactly how that story went, but we know in the end, they never took a class. Well, Mark and Lindsay were on their honeymoon. He had a lot of drama going on back home. It was weird because his landlord called and texted him daily to pester him about things that needed to be handled in person, but he was in Jamaica on his honeymoon. And she knew that because she attended their wedding a few days prior. So one of her calls was to inform him that his lease had been changed to a no pet policy. Meanwhile, he had 3 cats, so while he's supposed to be living it up like it's golden on his honeymoon, he had to worry about the potential of being homeless. And if that wasn't bad enough, the landlord was also getting on his case for having a bed bug infestation. Now, this situation was actually Mark's fault because apparently he discovered the bed bug problem 2 days before the wedding, but he claims he didn't have time to address it. So when they got back from their honeymoon, he and Lindsay strapped on full hazmat gear, emptied out his apartment, and moved his bug-ridden belongings to Lindsay's apartment. Throughout their season, Katina set out to prove that she is woman enough to be married to Elijah. So, for their 1 month anniversary, she surprised him with a gondola ride. He was so excited about the surprise, and to the confessional cam, he said, "I've never been on a gondola ride before." What ride? What was that? Hearing her husband mispronounce the word while they were getting their float on, Katina attempted to correct his pronunciation and said, "It's Ganjula. Ganjula." Oh, the ganja of it all. Later in the season, production arranged for Elijah Wan and Katina to interact with alpacas. To the confessional cam, Elijah Wan said, "We're going to go walk a gazebo." A gazebo? Let's use that word in a sentence, shall we? Gazebo. While we were walking a gazebo, we saw a gondola float by. Gazebo. Oh, and shout out to what looks like a boo-boo stain on his undies. Claire and Ryan's moment actually happened after their season ended. Throughout their season, Claire complained over and over again about being sexually frustrated and struggled with not feeling desired by Ryan because they were not being intimate. Their lack of having sex was basically the main character in their story. It was front and center. Well, after saying yes to staying married on decision day, they hit the local interview circuit and admitted to lying about their sex life, that they were knocking boots practically the entire season. The way Ryan explained it is that the cameras were being weaponized towards them. The producers wanted to know their problems, so they manufactured one. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, why choose to lie about sex though? If they're gonna lie, why not pick a lighter topic, like how neither of them know how to cook? They could have even skipped going to the grocery store and hit up HelloFresh.com and had them deliver quick and easy meals like the Santa Fe pork tacos or the veggie-friendly sweet potato and pepper quesadillas that are ready in only 15 minutes. Their time would have been so much better spent choosing between 40 different recipes and over 100 seasonal items each week without having to worry about being a pro chef in the kitchen or anything. Because by now we all know that HelloFresh comes with foolproof recipes with all of the ingredients already pre-portioned, making it even that much more easier to follow the preparation steps. When I receive a new HelloFresh box, I meal prep for the week because these meals taste just as yummy after being refrigerated and reheated in the microwave. And did I mention that preparing these meals make me feel like a culinary genius? I highly suggest you give them a try by going to HelloFresh.com and use code 50TAMRA for 50% off, plus your first box ships free. Again, that's HelloFresh.com and use code 50TAMRA for 50% off, plus your first box ships for free. I don't even know where to start with this train wreck of a marriage. After getting married to Chris, Alyssa cut up so bad that I nicknamed her Hostage because she was acting like Chris took her by force and made her participate in the show as his hostage. I mean, we knew before they were matched that she wasn't going to be attracted to him because she was looking for a buff cowboy with nice teeth, which unfortunately does not describe Chris. But his dorky friends didn't do him any favors either by carrying on to Alyssa about how he's so pushy and condescending. It's not clear if she was done with Chris at that moment or the moment she saw him at the end of the aisle at the wedding. But either way, she wanted absolutely, positively nothing to do with that man. So what did she do? She put on her purple mean girl pajamas, then proceeded to gaslight this man, insult him, and treat him like he was the one with the problem. Then she yelled at production over his bad treatment towards her, but everything she described him as doing to her was actually what she was doing to him. I mean, it was gaslighting at its finest. And then at the end of the so-called honeymoon, she had the nerve to try to force him into a custody battle over their shared apartment, wanting them to split it by staying in it alone for 4 weeks each instead of 8 weeks together. But not to work on the marriage. No, she wanted to hang out with her girls, the other wives, plus live in a nice apartment for free and participate in the fun excursions the show had planned for the married couples. So she was basically trying to produce her own personal little single lady segment of the show. Given all of these shenanigans she put everyone through in only like 7 days, she had the audacity to say to the camera almost every day, "I'm a good person." With good people like her, woo, who needs bad ones? Elizabeth and Jamie had some serious ups and downs through their stint on the show. One time, they went on a group outing to a NASCAR racing type place. So while the instructor was talking, Elizabeth interrupted him a few times, which frustrated Jamie, who yelled, "Shut up and listen! Shut up for 5 minutes!" Awkward. Well, Elizabeth did shut up, but she was mad, didn't participate in the festivities, and no one seemed to care. Later, Dr. Viviana was on her way over to have a little chat with them. So when Dr. Viviana showed up, she spoke with Jamie one-on-one, then went to the room where Elizabeth was hiding out and asked her to join in the conversation. Elizabeth agreed to listen as long as she was not going to be beat down by them because, as she put it, "Bitch, I knows what I did yesterday." Dr. Viviana was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, did you just call me a bitch?" She was looking at Elizabeth like, "Don't let the doctor in front of my name fool you. I'm from these streets." I'm just kidding. I don't know where she's from. Anyway, Elizabeth quickly backtracked and tried to explain that she was using the word as a term and not a description. Mia and Tristan from season 7 were excited to head out to their honeymoon in Cancun. They packed their bags and made it to the airport. Then it all went downhill from there. Before they could even board the plane, Mia was pulled aside by authorities for questioning. Turns out she was a fugitive. She had a felony warrant out for her arrest on 3 stalking charges and 1 charge of unauthorized use of a credit card, and was placed under arrest. This is her actual mugshot from that day. So for a show that claims to do extensive background checks on their cast members, this was definitely a shocking revelation for us fans. Anyway, after spending a day or two in the pokey, she was eventually released. She went on to finish the season, and later the charges against her were dropped. Oh, and by the way, Mia told producers that she didn't know the man who filed those charges against her. Well, in another turn of events, about a year or so later, the man who brought those charges against Mia was arrested. Mia used this opportunity to speak her truth. As it turns out, she was embarrassed to admit that the man was actually her ex-boyfriend, and she was a victim of domestic abuse by him. So as the story goes, after her ex found out that she was going to be on the show, he retaliated and filed false claims against her, which led to her arrest. During her Twitter tell-all, she came locked and loaded with receipts showing phone records with his phone number calling her an obnoxious amount of times every day for several days. Plus, there were other allegations she had against him. His arrest was for domestic abuse, battery, and child endangerment against a different woman. There was definitely more to Mia's story than met the eye. One of the most nerve-wracking moments on this show for the cast is the actual wedding day itself and the anticipation of who their spouse is and what they will look like. As season 15's Mitch nervously stood at the altar waiting for his bride, his face lit up like the lamp section in Home Depot when a brunette with a hot pink lace dress walked down the aisle. Not looking like anybody's bride, but he asked, "Is that her?" and was told, "No, that's your future mother-in-law." But given that he was so captivated by the mom, him being attracted to her daughter seemed like a sure thing, right? Well, unfortunately, that was not the case. He was more attracted to the mom than her daughter, Kristen. Kristen couldn't buy a compliment from Mitch that day. He complained about her dress, makeup, and, well, basically her entire look. But he gushed all over her mama, almost behaving like a little schoolboy with a crush on his teacher. Apparently, Kristen didn't rank high enough in his book to earn a compliment out of him, but he sure told her mama she was beautiful. Season 12's Chris, period. Just everything about him. Auditioning for the show while he was still living with his ex-fiancée, allegedly impregnating this woman just weeks before marrying Paige, sleeping with Paige multiple times even though he didn't find her attractive and was very vocal about it, stating that he used to be a preacher, but he was cussing folks out like a heathen sailor, helping his ex-fiancee buy a Mercedes, getting into fights with almost the entire cast, treating Paige like she's a scrub, going back and forth between Paige and his ex, and the list goes on. He is the poster child for folks who had no business getting married. A scene from season 1 of this show is probably one of the most popular clips of this entire franchise's history. After walking down the aisle and saying "I do" to Doug, Jamie couldn't even make it to her dressing room before she fell to the floor in tears in the hallway because she had just married a man that she was not attracted to at all. But in an unexpected turn of events, she managed to fall in love with him, and they're still married with kids as of the date of this video. Michael and Jasmina got off to a rocky start, which never seemed to improve. During one of their early conversations, Jasmina told Michael the only experience she had with living with a man is her male roommate, then turned around and asked Michael if he's ever lived with a woman. He said, "No, never, never. That's a new territory for me." Well, a day or two later, Michael took Jasmina on a little tour of his apartment. Afterwards, they were talking in Michael's living room, and like mid-breath, Jasmina sees a woman step out of a room and like slither into another one. She was like, "You live with a girl? You didn't tell me you live with a girl." He was like, "I thought I told you." Well, as it turns out, he didn't live with a girl. He lived with 2 girls. It never made sense why he told such a bold-faced lie, and we were never given a reason why he didn't admit to it because she lived with the opposite sex too. Sasha and Nate were not only open about the fact that they were having sex, but also let it be known that they enjoyed experimenting with adult toys. Well, one night before a group dinner, Stasha surprised Nate with a remote control to a wireless vibrator in her panties. The idea was for him to give her a little zap of pleasure here and there during dinner. Well, careful what you ask for. She squirmed, stumbled over her words, and even let out a little moan during dinner because Nate kept the vibrator on nonstop for her quivering pleasure. Later, Nate claimed he couldn't figure out how to turn it off. "Yeah, right. It's just a switch that goes up and down, sir." Well, I mean, at least that's what I've heard. I mean, I wouldn't know. A friend told me. Moving on. Zach and Michaela's relationship was a constant dosage of highs and lows. So midway through the season, when the show sends the couples on a group retreat, getaway, a little setup for drama, whatever they call it, Zach and Michaela got into it. Zach told Michaela that he wanted to leave their little country getaway retreat thing early. And Michaela was like, "Bye. Go now." Like, really, why are you still here? Then somehow she flipped the switch and got mad that he wanted to go, so she insisted that he stay. Even tried to block him from leaving and was taunting him as he walked to his car. While he was at his car and Michaela went back to the house, some of the cast was trying to talk him into staying. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we hear glass breaking and chaos going on in the house. This situation was the perfect storm, and Hurricane K was in destruction mode. Michaela had gone back into the house and was throwing stuff, moving furniture that probably weighed twice as much as she did, until she made it back to the bedroom where she had to be restrained by a producer as she launched at the cameraman to slam the door in his face. Now, her family nicknamed her Hurricane K, and the little path of destruction she left behind showed us why. During their honeymoon, Bao and Johnny got into a fight over Bao's shower schedule. Don't even ask me why they chose this topic to discuss on TV, but they did. So Bao shared that sometimes after a workout, she's too lazy to shower and just wants to go to bed straight away. Of course, Johnny had an issue with her jumping in bed all sweaty and stank. He basically said, "If you're gonna get in our bed dirty, you're gonna need to change our sheets." Bao wasn't having it. She was like, "But I don't want to do that. What if I'm lazy and I just want to crash on the couch?" You know the term, pick your battles wisely? I believe that applied to this situation. Fighting to remain stank is a losing battle. Season 16's Eris wouldn't have sex with his wife, but he loved talking about sex, and especially his past sexual escapades. During their honeymoon, he thought he'd break the lull in their conversation by asking Jasmine, "What's your favorite sexual position?" She was painfully uncomfortable with this sudden shift in conversation topic, so one would think he would dial it back a bit and talk about something else. But no, he wasn't feeling her demure bashfulness and told her, "Look, you're giving me lady and I want whore." Say what now? You want what? And did you put this request on your application, sir? Weeks later, they had their 678th conversation about sex by playing Never Have I Ever, just the two of them. So Eris asked her if she's ever cheated on someone. She said no. He put a finger down and called her boring. Is there such a thing as charm school for F-boys? Asking for a friend. During a boat trip on their honeymoon in Puerto Rico, season 14's cast played the game Never Have I Ever. During one of the rounds, when it was Elijah's turn, he asked, "Have you ever slept with somebody in the same family?" Everyone was a little perplexed and didn't put a finger down. Well, no one except for Elijah. He explained that he messed with a mom and her daughter. Turns out that the mom had a son who disrespected Elijah's cousin. I guess as an act of revenge, he decided to flirt with the guy's mom, and she responded by getting a hotel room and giving Elijah what he called sex ed. About a month later, her daughter was sleeping at Elijah's cousin's house. Elijah went over to his cousin's house. Later that night, he gave the daughter the same sex education her mother gave him. When they talk about keeping it in the family, Elijah, this isn't what they mean. This show is big on intimacy and kind of pushing the couples into having sex before decision day. So imagine Keith's surprise from season 9 when he learned he was matched with Iris, who was a virgin. Talk about an awkward situation. Iris saw her virginity as a gift, but Keith, he saw it as a burden. Plus, he wasn't impressed with her lack of experience or her emotional immaturity. I don't know what the experts were thinking when they cast a virgin on the show, where they pushed so hard for the couples to put dents in their mattresses, if you know what I mean. And as we would expect, it backfired. Iris held on to her virginity like Madonna is trying to hold on to her youth. So in the end, they went their separate ways with her virginity fully intact. So that's my main list, but I do have a few honorable mentions. To Luke from season 8 for kissing and being intimate with his wife, then saying things like he's disgusted by her and feels dead inside. And Zach from season 10 for talking in circles, never moving in the shared apartment, and flirting with one of Mindy's best friends, which ruined that friendship. And finally, an unsung hero, season 14's Lindsay's dad. He found funny ways to warn Mark about his daughter's sharp tongue, joking that he hopes Mark's a lion tamer because he's going to need to be one in his marriage. So what do you think? Did I leave out one of your funniest or most shocking moments of the show? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this walk down memory lane. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in my next video.